And we are live. Welcome everyone. Episode number 31 of ChatGDG. I'm your host, Stefano, and yet again with a fantastic guest, Ale. Hello, Ale.
Hello,
How are
Stefano
you?
and everyone. I'm good. How are you? I'm here in London, like yourself.
Yes, so you experienced the amazing British summer, right? Which is a little bit
Uh, it's,
underwhelming.
it's been great. Yes,
It's been great so far,
yeah.
yes. But hopefully it's gonna get better. So, what are we talking about? Talking about you. So, you are the guest, you are the star of the show. So, if you don't mind, could you introduce yourself to the people that don't know you already?
Of course. Well, again, hi everyone. I'm Alejandra Stamato. I'm currently working in building product at HubSpot as an senior Android, well, tech lead and Android developer and software engineer. And I have combined, 10 year, more than 10 years of experience in the industry as a software engineer. Started as a full stack developer, then moved very quickly into Android and never left. Originally Argentinian, now living in London after spending 6 years in Dublin. Very happy so far. 2 years, almost 3 years in London. And yeah, that is pretty much it. I like dogs. That is also another very big important point.
Actually, you've been modest. There is a little bit
Mm.
more to it. You are also a public speaker. You are a GDE for Android. You are currently your position, of course, is lead or tech lead Android engineer at HubSpot, but you might have had a past working at Google, right? So we,
Yeah,
we
I
should we mention that? May or may not,
may or
right?
may or may not have left out key details of my life.
Key details, but that's why we'll be sharing this time, together to, talk more about some details. First thing first, very important. Ciao, Kubra. Kubra, she's super precise. She joined immediately. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for following us. I had zero doubt that Kubra was about to show up because she's a great supporter of you. She's your friend, right? And also, you and Kubra, you shared the passion for Android.
She's awesome. Yeah, she's awesome. I'm lucky enough to bump into her every once in a while in conferences, and I'm always like super happy to see her. Yeah. So
Yeah.
hi, ciao. Yeah.
Ciao. Hola.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah, you're clearly Argentinian, as your the flag behind you. Might have hint
Yes.
the Argentina. If I'm not mistaken, Argentina won the cup of
That's
something.
that's why it's there. We
Yeah,
recently won the Copa America. Very,
Copa
very
America.
also important topic. Copa
Yeah,
America champions,
America.
but like twice in a row. Plus the World Cup. We've been a very happy nation lately
Yeah, it's been a good run,
regarding
right?
football. Yeah, it's been a good run. Yes.
Yeah, like congratulations for
Thank
that.
you.
Unfortunately,
Also,
Italy did
oh
better the Euro.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was another. Yeah, we played in Wembley actually, Wembley Stadium here in London, Argentina and Italy. Unfortunately, Italy won. Italy lost, but we won, and we were very happy. So I guess thank you for that, Stefano.
That's it. Yeah, that was all, all me. Yes, all me. Oh, we got another friend. Amir, hello, and congrats for Copa. Yes, see, starting from the football, kind of topic, yeah, makes people happy. But
You
let's,
know, you know,
yeah, yeah,
you know what, Stefano? I was actually kind of sad because I was thinking, because I have to think of all the matches that I'm gonna have to watch this week, and Euro is over, Copa America is over, so football is over. It's so boring.
it's summertime, isn't it? So,
Yes.
yeah, giving a little bit of time to rest.
Mm.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
True.
let's dive back into the main topic, the very interesting topic, which happened to be yourself. So, first question, yeah. So you started working almost 10 years back, right? So you have a bunch of experience in tech. First question from me is like, I'm curious. You started as a full stack engineer, so more on a web side of things, but then suddenly in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, if I read your LinkedIn profile well
Environment.
enough, you suddenly move over to the Android universe and never left it since. Why was that?
It wasn't completely immediately after, though. It happened after 3 years. So how it was is that I joined the company that was like kind of a startup-ish, was small. So it was very easy to be full stack, really. I was just fresh, wasn't even fresh out of college. I was still in college. So I was doing my master's
Okay.
degree at night, and I was working by the, like, hero by
Yep.
night, and like, whatever. But yeah, sort of like very long days, essentially. So I was working in, everything that the company needed. Immediately, that was Java and the backend. Then it was a little bit of Angular and front end. And I didn't particularly love JavaScript. I thought it was a lot of magic here and there. Like, I thought it was a lot of magic. At that time, it was Angular 1 started migrating into Angular 2. I remember we were doing that migration, Angular 2. I don't know what number it is right now, but I'm sure it's more than 5.
Yeah, way more than that.
Yeah. So we were doing that. And then I did a lot of data mining as well, and like migration of data, big, large databases and complex processing of data. And I realized, oh, this is cool. It gives me more, a larger vision of what other things I could be doing in tech. But then this is what happened. Okay. I was studying in college one of these subjects that involves creating a project, so on and so forth. And we were tasked with building an Android app. And this was like very, revolutionary. We were using Eclipse. And we were using, I'm going to say it again slowly. We were using Eclipse.
Wow.
Yeah, the world was not, it was a weird place.
Yeah.
So we were using Eclipse, but I fell in love anyway. Like the power of building something and have it in your small device. And I had a device that it was like the same but smaller and cuter and different and these patterns.
Okay.
And I was building the whole thing. And to me, it was like kind of very. I don't want to say that it was easy, but it came like very naturally to me how it worked, the platform. And also I liked the fact that the universe was like very diversified, like there was like very big expensive devices and like more cheap devices. I was living in Argentina at the time. I didn't have access to an iPhone. Even if I wanted to
Yeah.
develop for iOS,
Okay.
that wasn't
Fair.
a thing. So
That's it.
that also maybe played the part. And I think it universalized, like it made it achievable for everyone, Android development. Like everyone could do it. And I liked it. And I'm like, I want to do this professionally and learn a lot on this, right? Like I want to do this professionally. So I started job searching for a company that would take me on. And I passed the interviews or whatever. And I jumped into a very mature, very large team of Android developers. And as you do when you join these things and you get to see product in action in production, you learn a lot in very short amount of time. And I loved it. I loved it even more. And I guess because I was like very opinionated on things and I liked trying things and making, and until they worked, I kind of became escalating in the job ladder with that attitude of like never stop learning.
Which is the right attitude if you want to have a successful career in tech, because we need to
Yeah.
learn
Yeah.
pretty much every
All
single
the
day, right?
time. Yeah,
All
all
the
the
time.
time.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you know better than most, like 15 ish. So 2015 until now is a different world. You know what I mean? Is a different universe, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of tools, what you can do, how powerful are these things now? This
For sure.
Pixel 8, by the way.
Oh, nice. Look at you with your AI on device capabilities. It is a very different world. Like I guess back in the still you have to take care of things like NARs or like devices being slow, because that can still be true in parts of the world and in certain devices. But at that time, like the majority of the devices were in this situation. Like you have to cater for like low memory and this disk space and power processing of power and all these things. And the tooling has improved a lot. We have Android Studio now, better emulators. Before, back in the day, we had like emulators that were like kind of random. Okay, yeah. Yes,
was not
not very
not not
official,
not
let's say.
not the best. Let's put it that way.
Not the
Not the
best, not
best.
the best. But that's interesting that you're saying this, because also, because I kind of seen almost the whole picture. Obviously, there's people that have been doing Android from way before and
Mm.
have been doing Xamarin and these mixed technologies of developing from multiple platforms like
Yep.
React Native, but back in the
Yep.
day, PhoneGap, these type of things.
Yeah.
They have seen definitely the whole picture. I have missed a couple of episodes and a couple of seasons, but people that arrive to Android today, I am happy that they have a lot of things digested for them, like Compose and the documentation that it's like proper, and architecture guidelines and a bunch of things that we struggled a lot with, and somewhat reasonably stable tooling and tool chain. Whereas us, I don't want to say that we had it difficult. Like every era has its challenges. But back in the day, every company was doing with architecture, for example, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like,
Was the Wild West.
oh yeah, it was fun. So
So
you really
you
felt like nothing that you would learn in a company could be translatable into another code base, because it was
that's
so
it.
different. Now you have to understand the patterns of this new company that you would join.
Yeah, that's it. So you clearly started before Kotlin was a thing.
You're
Jetpack,
right.
of
Yes.
course, Compose is even more, recent. So yeah, if someone joined, today the world of Android development, of course, this person would have way more tools and more standardized ways of doing that in a way that makes
Yeah.
sense. You know what I mean? It's just very transferable between companies. So you know what the best practice is.
Yeah. And actually, if you want to talk about that, I was very, very well. I was during some time in my career part of the team that was in charge of curating and developing and thinking about these best practices as well, which was super fun. It was super mind blowing. And now I am on the other side again of going to the documentation to learn about them, like
Okay.
all of other Android developers are.
Fair. So you lived in Dublin for quite a few years, 5-6 years, working
Mhm.
for a couple of companies, and then I think something happened in 2021.
Yes. So at some point during 2021, I got the email that was the email that we all Android developers, I think, would like to
Yeah.
receive at some point, or at least I did. It was my dream job, and it was my dream. It was the dream company. So it was my dream everything. So I
Yes.
get this email being like, the team of Android developer relations is looking for Android developer relation engineer. This is what they do, and they explained it to me because it was somewhat clear to me, but not really. Like part of that role was like not I guess not very clear to me. So like there was a full description that clarified a bunch of things, and it sounded even more insane and interesting. So I'm like, oh yeah, sure. But I had no expectations. I'm like, this could break my heart, so I'm just going to do everything that I have to make sure I get this. And if I don't, I am gonna try not to cry too much.
Yeah, I know that can be heartbreaking. So this is
Oh my
interesting,
god,
right?
yes,
Yeah, right. So you
yeah.
got the email from Google, right?
Yeah, so I never knew why. At that time, there was for real. Like in 2021 they announced Compose Stable. I think it was like around that time, and I participated into one of the stages in which you had to code something and win prizes. And I won a little Lego set. So
Ah, nice.
maybe that's how. But I never knew exactly how they found me. But thankfully they did. Like LinkedIn, the keywords were right spot on. But they did, and I was so lucky because of that. And then I completed the interviews, got the job. There was a possibility to move to London, which was like my dream city of like I always wanted to live there for at least a little bit.
Yeah.
So everything was kind of aligning.
So dream city, dream company, dream role.
dream job, dream
dream
everything.
job.
Yeah.
Things are
So
going well, right? 2021 is probably kind of an important year in your
yes.
life.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the one of the stepping stones for me, really. And my time at Google was like insanely great and super fun. And I had like the best memories. And especially because of the people that I got to work with. You get like when you're in that team, you really get to meet your heroes and everyone that you admire because they're so amazing, and you get to have like these insane conversations, not only because not only on Android and not only on tech, like literally legitimately
Yeah.
everyone was like so interesting and so nice and so generous with their time. No, it was like wow, it was great, insane. um Maybe the follow-up question is then what? So what? But I'm
There
gonna.
is
But you're the interviewer.
even one before that question, because that question
Sure.
clearly is coming. That's obvious. But I'm really quite interested about the okay. Google sent you this email like, "Hey, we've got this role. Are you interested?" You say, "Yeah, maybe." Yeah, sure. How
That
was
was
the interview process? Like how different, because clearly that is a DevRel role, which is clearly a little
mhm.
bit different from the regular software engineer role. Like
Yeah.
how different it is, the interview process.
Okay. Um, there is essentially two big differences. The first one is obviously like the first step is like you do a phone screen. If you've never been at Google before or you haven't been referred, I think,
Yeah.
by a Googler,
Yep.
you get to the phone screening, which is a Google Doc problem, do the code, and then you code, you iterate on the solution, and with the prompts that your interviewer will give you to tweak the solution and change it to accommodate the new requirements. That's that.
How, sorry
Um,
about that, how relevant that is specifically to Android, or was a general thing?
no, it was like a coding, and it was just like a data structure and algorithms question. It was just like
Algorithm and data
very,
structure.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, not Android related. And then a couple of questions regarding, you know, so it was split in half. One of was that, and the other part was like about the role, a little bit more specific, like how would you tackle this situation with the community? How would you do this? How you like sort of behavioral
Yeah.
questions a little bit. After that one is where the fun begins. What you would consider it to be the on-site, except
Yep.
that it wasn't on-site and it was totally online without the lunch.
Because there
But
was
it was,
a COVID
I
time.
don't remember. It was 2021, so definitely it was still. We were like kind of
Must have been.
leaving that period. Yeah.
But they were
Yeah.
still running all these things, just online.
Yeah. I'm not sure how big tech does it now. If they would fly you to Dublin or London office to have meet you and all these things, I don't know.
Hmm.
Like it's been a long time, Stefano, since I've had interviews on site. A long time, since 2020. Since 2018, my last job before the
Wow. Okay.
last job.
It's been a
An
while.
interview that I had to go to the office to code in a whiteboard. It's been a
Yeah.
long time.
Old
I've
school.
had old school, yeah, with a marker that doesn't write,
that doesn't work.
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah,
Perfect.
exactly. It's been a hot minute. And then what happens is for DevRel, there is that process that involves you presenting on a topic. This is one of the main difference. There are
Yeah.
two differences. One, the main difference
Okay.
is you present on a topic with slides, because you're going to be doing that a lot. So you have
Yeah.
to be able to communicate. Being able to communicate is like the number one probably requirement from a DevRel. So yeah, you have to prepare some slides and a topic to present to your audience, which is going to be your panel of interviewers, right? And I chose something that I was like very interested about at that time, and I'm still interested right now, but now it's changed with Compose, which was accessibility auditing and testing an Android app and strategies to fix a couple of elements.
Nice. Okay.
in particular in the app that I was working at the time. So I presented that, and after that presentation, you are asked questions by the audience, much like you would, like, it's like if you've been doing that, then you might somewhat feel comfortable-ish. And then
how comfortable did you feel about
during the presentation? I practiced. So during the presentation, I was fine. But then the questions, I was like, okay. But it went all right. Like I don't remember really what the questions were, but they were like they were good questions. And you would like try to answer. If you know, you know, and if you don't know, you're honest. Because like in a talk, you are also honest. If you don't know something, you don't need to, invent and lie. You're honest. Look, I can give you the answer, but what I know is ABC. The other thing, I don't. So that went well, that went well. And then you have, I don't want to lie to you, but I think I had 5 more interviews, which were a combination, almost all of them, again, split in half. Data structure and algorithms, not Android related, and then questions more
interesting,
DevRel related, like what's your favorite library, or like, how would what's the thing that you hate the most about this, and how would you have implemented that, or how do you communicate of a breaking change in the community? Things that would make you your job.
Absolutely, real world, cases.
Real world,
scenarios.
Exactly, and it becomes super clear once you're doing the job why the questions were there, because you're like you're having these problems, having all these problems. And as per the data structure of algorithms, your typical lead code, mediums, I would say. And that's the second difference, because they're assessing you for DevRel. Maybe they don't want you to be testing you for like the toughest hard lead code. Like it's not probably gonna be like hard or more. It's gonna be not a trap. I didn't feel no question was a trap. I felt like very comfortable interacting in them. And I think, if I remember correctly, I think in one, I didn't get to the most
optimized solution.
I didn't optimize it for the toughest thing, which is depending on how you're assessing you for a SWE role. That will be a requirement. If not, you are either you're downgraded or you do not pass the interview. So that would be like maybe another difference, is that they are not trying to do the bar raiser and completely suck you for the coding question.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That was, Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, and if you have go ahead, because like then I can tell you how it follows.
No, I mean, I would just wanted to say this is kind of like what I expected, even if I don't know. This was the first time that I know from someone that actually did that, how the interview for a DevRel role is going. And I kind of expected being a 50-50 split. So clearly it's Google. Clearly they are going to test you. You need to know your things, if that makes sense, in terms of you need to be technical, but probably not as the very deep level. If there was an interview for a senior engineer role, working on a kernel, maybe the interview was a little bit more deep dive. And also besides that, which doesn't mean that was easy, because it's big congratulations for passing that. Is insane. So well done.
Thanks. Some of the engineers are working in codes like either Compose library or Android, like apps that are going to be running in a lot of in every device, like calendar app, like first P apps. There cannot be room for something that is downgraded in performance, because the impact is massive. Whereas DevRel, maybe it's going to be working on codes if you're even contributing to Android, maybe you're not going to be contributing in the kernel level or in AOSP or even in the Compose libraries. And if you are, probably you're going to be working alongside with someone that knows how to review your code. It's not as critical for you to be working at that level of high standard But yeah, I wouldn't I wouldn't say that it was easy either. Like, even though like
No.
I'm trying to paint a picture now, I'm like forgotten a lot of stuff. But I do know that I bombed an interview big time. So that's another message that I want to say. Okay, it's if you bomb one, it's fine. Like, you're not completely automatically die. You don't automatically die. It's fine. Just like smile, put it like the best attitude, because then maybe the next ones are all right. And in my case, they were all right. But I remember that one of the interviews was not the best I've ever done. And you have that, which is why you have a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Maybe 1 out of 5 is fine if it doesn't go amazingly well, because at the end of the day, they've got a committee, right? That they need to decide, big thumbs up, thumbs down, medium. So if you've got 4 thumbs up and maybe one not great, it's still fine. Can I ask you if you were hired as a L4? Just L4 is the software and the mid-level, call it how you want, right?
Yeah. I was
L4.
hired at L4, L5 being senior,
Yep.
L6 being staff.
Yeah,
Then yeah,
staff, and then senior staff and principal, and
yeah,
things
and
that we cannot comprehend beyond
I
that.
think that yeah, well, yeah, director, and like other
Distinguished
type of
engineer, Google fellow. Sounds great.
wow, other type of responsibilities. Yeah, I think part of the reason, and it didn't help, that I had up until that point, I didn't have any leadership in practice skills. All of my leadership have been ad hoc, for having opinion and like pushing my team on a direction, but I haven't been lead or like people
Yeah.
manager or like lead at any point. And being in charge of that, like strategizing and planning for things and developing a product strategy, all these type of things are part of the DevRel role. And when you're a tech lead, you're kind of splashed with those responsibilities a little bit as
Yep.
well, because you're working very closely with product, with design. So I feel like now that I'm back in product on the other side, I feel like I would be like way more equipped to bring a lot of more stuff into that role. But it's interesting, having been from a software engineer into DevRel, back into a software engineer. I can really see how being a DevRel, even though it may sound like a complete different change of role, it helped me a lot. It gave me a lot of skills to bring into my next role now as a tech lead. So I'm like very grateful for that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can totally see that. And I'm a big advocate of do something every now and then, do something different with your career. Try even to be, I don't know, product manager for a year. Even if maybe it doesn't make sense, but it does, because when you get back into senior engineer staff, or whatever, you got a lot of new skills that you can play with, and they can really, really help throughout your career. And also, I mean, well done, because clearly you did not come from another big tech, right? So when you jump into that big tech, 90%, probably even 99%, they are going to downgrade you anyway. So there is almost 0% chance that you are a senior engineer in such and such company, and you join as a senior at Google or Meta or whatnot, is very unlikely. So you will be automatically downgraded to the previous one, because otherwise it's going to be too difficult for you. So they are
Yeah,
doing that to help
and
you.
in retrospective, I can see how I would have like not had a great time. You see it, because like it's not just the title, right? They will like evaluate you, like rate you at the certain level, and your performance will be like rated with a certain expectation that if you do not meet, it's not my problem. You're just not. I mean, it is my problem, but it's not your boss's
Yeah.
problem. You're essentially you're set up for failure if you're
Yeah,
already
exactly.
leveled higher than your possibility. So I can see how that was a good thing.
Yeah.
Also, in reality, in actuality, I was like like L4 being mid level. I was a senior or like senior engineer, but DevRel wasn't I wasn't a
Of course.
senior DevRel with everything that implied, right? Like it was fun because I felt like very fragile at some moments. It's like, oh, I am not used to not knowing how to do anything. I learned a lot. It was like weird. I know how to give a talk, but no, you don't. Not with this standard, because obviously Google has like
Exactly.
its
Very high
next
standards.
level. Oh yeah. Your reviews, and obviously your peers would like review your content and help you out and give you a million suggestions because everyone is so brilliant. And so you end up feeling like, oh, wait, this is a lot. this is a lot. And you grow as well from that, from the challenges that you have, like in any other situation in life. You have to. That's why it's a great thing that you said. I was in DroidCon Berlin last week, a couple of weeks ago, and Chet has now retired from the Android world, which is like a personality for us Android developers.
Okay.
He's a legend, and he worked a lot in the UI toolkit team for like a decade or more at Google. And he said during his keynote that change is good and that you should be changing, because that pushes you to learn something more and surprise yourself with things that you do not know you could learn. And I think that's super. Even if it's scary, and
Especially
it
if
will
it's
be.
scary.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not growing. And I can bet that you did not clearly grow a lot on a professional level, but also as a personal level, because you've gained skills, conversational skills, presentational skills that can apply to life, even outside the day-to-day job. So that was, I think, a big thing for you. And once again, congratulations for getting that. It's not obvious, it's not easy. So, well done. And now the big question. And then why did you leave Google?
Uh, it was like at that time it was like a combination of things. Like I think the industry is kind of weird in general now. Like in general.
Mhm.
But at that time, this is almost a year ago now.
Yeah.
So I joined HubSpot, which is the company that I'm working on for. By the end of this month, it will be a year that I joined. So obviously, it's been a little bit longer than I left. At that time, the industry was like a little bit. Google was one of the companies that were, deciding on cutting back people for certain teams. So so that made me think, maybe I would like to have a plan B just in case.
Okay, fair.
Because that's that. And I started taking a look at what was like, out there. And I remember that because from my previous job, I hadn't really left in bad terms. I had left because it was like the train of a lifetime, was like leaving the
Course.
station, and I needed to be on board, right?
Yeah.
And so I reached out and be like, yo, how
It's
was
me
like
again.
I I was like, hey, do you remember me? And they were like, oh my God, if you want to come back, stop. And I was like, no, I'm just like kind of, I mean, like, doesn't know what. And they were like super cute. And they were, because I had like kind of opened the door a little bit, they started
Yeah, of course.
pinging me a little bit as well. In the end, I was lucky enough to not have been, affected, and like I got to remain in the team. But something had already been kicked in my head, like,
Yeah,
I wanted to build product. I wanted to be back to product. I wanted to being back to be on the keyboard, like kind of on the problems, and a little bit less DevRel, a little bit more on the action. And even though at Google, you have the opportunity to do everything, I felt like I was missing out on what the real world, or like kind of real apps were struggling with to be on this side. So I figured maybe what I can maybe do is like join back a company doing product and go back to Google to apply to be a GD. So I get in my mind at that
gotcha.
time what is the best of both worlds. And that is what I did. I am now back into building product with, talking with product managers and designers, and I am a tech lead now, so I have my team, and that I applied to be a GD, and I got into the program, so I get to be in contact with Google still, because I cannot let go.
No, of course.
I am lucky enough to still be in contact with Google and be able to give the feedback that I would have given when I was on the inside, but from the outside, coming in strong with real problems. Like, we have a problem with this. How do we, developers are seeing this and blah, 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 blah. And so I guess that's it was a combination of things and a combination of factors. It typically is. There wasn't nothing very
No, I know that's
dramatic.
very interesting. So as soon as the seed was planted, that
Mm.
there is something else. Maybe I can get back to that. And of course, you've clearly left in a very good terms with your old company, and they were super happy to have you back. That really made
I
you
love
think.
it. Yeah. From back in the day, I was also kind of living in good terms, and they were like, no, but obviously, like, they understood. Obviously, you have to see this through to see where this is going.
Mm,
Um,
of course.
and it was fabulous. Like, I cannot tell you how fab it was. It was, oh my god. Um, but obviously, where there are high peaks, there may be also like lows as well.
Yep.
Like, obviously, you're surrounded by talent. You can get very insecure yourself. Like, oh my god, and like everyone is like so much better than me. What do I do with this imposter syndrome? And you just have to overcome that and work through that, because there is no other way. In a company like Google, in big tech, that might happen to you.
Oh, it's weird if it doesn't happen.
Oh
If you ask
yeah,
me.
sure, yeah. Like, when when are they going to find out that they made a mistake with me?
Sorry,
It's
sorry. My bad.
it's hard. Yeah, right. It's hard. You have to manage those feelings of like, oh my god, and then eventually you overcome them, and you understand. Oh, I don't know if belong, but you've earned this
Yeah,
position. But
exactly.
obviously, where that it's that it's like a whole thing. It's a lot. It's a lot in a company like Google, which needs no introduction.
Yeah. So someone said you now know more about ethics about Google. That was your oh my god moment.
About ethics. You know more about ethics about Google. What was your oh my god moment? I don't think I understand the question. I don't think I understand the question.
Okay, let's try if our friend can perhaps rephrase the question in a slightly different way. We try to give an answer. So yeah, I mean, well done. Again, and also I don't know. Maybe you will be joining Google again in a future, or maybe not. I mean, I don't know. We don't know, but clearly at the end of your career, even if you won't join any Google again or any other big tech, you still have this very important, experience in your CV, which
Oh
is
yeah,
remarkable.
amazing. Yeah.
Look at that. Indeed, Google
It
is massive. Yes, it is.
is so massive. Yeah. 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 But it was, like, again, it was so fun. And then obviously you have, like, the little perks and like whatever, what people like imagine when they think of Google. The big office. You can visit any office in the world. You have your free food. That I knew it was probably, I'm not sure if it's never gonna get better than that, but I would doubt that it
We are
that it
really
does.
up there.
It's
Doesn't
like
get that
flying.
much better.
Look, it's like flying business. It ruins the experience for you.
Right? Exactly. That's really, really quite true.
Mm.
So then at some point, right, you've okay, let me rephrase that. So your experience as a DevRel really helped you to then get into becoming a public speaker, to start giving talks, even outside Google, even you are not,
Mm. Yeah. Look, when I was in Argentina, back in 2015, so even before moving to Ireland, even before any of this, I met some folks in a meetup that was held at the Google office in Argentina, actually,
okay.
in Buenos Aires.
Yep.
And they decided to organize a chapter of the GDG Buenos Aires. It was called GDG Rio de la Plata, as in River Plate, as in the river that is
Okay.
in the
Yeah.
country. And we were started giving talks there, and that's when I realized that I liked giving talks, right? Uh, to this extent.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Obviously I wasn't. I'm not sure if I'm good, but I wasn't as whatever I am right now. I was worse than that.
Of course, and that was
you know?
pretty normal
Yes.
and expected, I guess.
Yeah. You would take a look at the slides now, and you would be like, oof, no, no. But I wanted to chat about the I was giving talks precisely on the differences between backend and mobile pipelines, like how do we release like our release trains in mobile, and how does that work in the web, how they test, how they
Yeah.
release, or like all these like the differences, because like it was very frustrating for me. Like I observed that backend developers or front end developers, full stackers didn't really care how mobile operated,
Yeah.
and it was frustrating. I would see that in my job, and I wanted to like kind of raise awareness in a way. So I was focusing on that. Then I moved to Ireland, and I kind of lost contact with. Obviously, you
Mm.
cannot no longer be part of a community in a country that where you know do not live.
In a
um,
continent, not a country,
in
like
a
a
con-
continent.
in a continent, yeah, exactly. But we composed. I started like a few years after I started getting back into it, and then in DevRel I got to meet everyone in the community,
That's it.
all of the GDs, anyone that was anyone, so to speak, and that may be like by by virtue of it being my job,
Hmm.
it made me a better speaker. Gave me a lot of tricks how to make better slides, how to get to the point, what do people want to know, a lot of storytelling tricks. Um, you cannot repeat them too much, because like people get bored of seeing the same things. But you get it. There is a formula to this, an outline,
Yeah.
how to make it work. It can be studied, so it works. And that made me a better speaker. And now I still enjoy it. I give talks in the community, and I try to take as many opportunities as I have to present out work as well. And yeah,
Yeah, you can definitely leverage your experience with that. So first thing first, you should give me a couple of one-to-one sessions because I really need to
for sure. Yeah,
improve my
you,
game in terms of talks and slides and everything. Yeah, I do
you.
things because I have my way, but my way is maybe not the best practice. We are back in
Gotcha.
2012 where people they do things in a way that maybe it's right, but maybe it's not. So I would really appreciate to have a little bit more
Of course,
insights from a
of course.
professional like you.
No, I don't think I'm a professional, but I can give you my everything. Like I can share everything I know on how I approach these things. Um, and not only on not only on talks, or which is what I get more experience these days, but also I discovered how much I like writing. Like I used to write a lot when I
Okay.
was a kid, and I used to write a lot afterwards of like trips and whatever. And now I got to write technical blogs,
Yeah.
which is super fun. But I got a lot of feedback from my peers because I would make like stories that no one cared about. So they were like, cut all of this,
I see.
cut all of this, like remove all of this. It would be like once upon a once upon a time, an engineer. Well, not like this. I'm
No,
exaggerating,
I
but
know, I know.
I
Yeah.
would I would tell the story of things that maybe people do not care about.
Care
So
about.
one
Yeah.
of my first yeah, so one of my first blog posts was on the decisions behind how include like a particular parameter was implemented in text in a text in view system in
Yeah.
Android, and how that was fixed in Compose.
Okay.
And the blog, in retrospect, could have been split into two, the history and the solution. But I wanted the history to be there because I thought it was super interesting. I made interviews to the engineers that were involved in developing that uh, back in the
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
to
Nice.
gather the data of how did this thing came to be, because it was either that or studying the code, and the code was like very complex.
Yeah.
And impossible. So that was super fun, and I got from the community, I got feedback that they appreciated that article. Like, oh, it's very interesting to see how this came to be, and like, so there is nerds like me that appreciate those details.
No, I a lot also is a little bit thinking outside the boxes. You know what I mean? Is try to give a little bit of a different. Sorry to interrupt you. We've got a couple of questions. So first thing
Oh
first,
yeah, sure.
the first paper. How do you correlate the change in Google's tech and trends in the coming future? There is a follow-up question to clarify. Everybody's on Gen
Yeah.
AI now, but what's the next big thing after that? Because markets outside educate themselves.
I with AI, what I have is like obviously it's the trend right now, and no one knows what's the next big thing going to be. For a long time, we thought it was going to be augmented reality,
Yep.
and to a certain extent, it's always there, but it's never really picked up. AI sort of came in overnight with OpenAI creating a revolution, and then everyone felt the need to catch up. Google had been talking about that for ages with nothing concrete until they had to. That was my interpretation of the thing. Now, where it's going, I don't know, but what I can tell you is that the current landscape of AI is, for now, the best option to do AI on device for now until we can properly do it on device is like going to a backend. Therefore, you don't really know what's going on.
An
An
API is an API.
Exactly. Except that instead of being a magical thing that returns you this JSON, it returns you this JSON. Except that now it's another robot giving it to you.
Yeah.
That's the current state for Android. Will it change? Yes, I think so. Because, for example, the device that Stefano has, Pixel 8, has the capabilities to do AI on device, which will make it faster, which will allow you unblock new use cases, recognition of images to transform for kids into other objects, translating already kind of works, but pointing, like taking a picture of your we saw a great demo in DroidCon, which was like someone had developed an app taking a picture of a recipe, and by giving you whatever ingredients I have in my fridge, thank you.
Okay.
You will give me the recipe that can make it match. And what am I missing? And I thought that was insane.
That's
I thought that
brilliant.
was brilliant usage. So will this get better? Yes. It's just that we're not there just yet. We need more devices to be doing this. Right now, the APIs that unblock your Pixel 8, Stefano, are in private beta. In early release, you had to talk to Google, so they unlocked them. So we'll get there slowly but surely. We'll get there. Right now, it's just another API that returns you magic.
Yeah, it will come. Thank you for that. Another very interesting question, and this question is probably, I think, quite a few people might share it. Thank you, Amir. How do you manage the stress to perform in front of an audience, especially you think that they all expect me to say something cool? So probably it's like, how do you manage expectations? Probably that's the
Well, it's interesting. It's an interesting question because what happens to me, it really depends on person to person, right? Like there's people that love being on stage and they get super energized by it. What happens to me is that before it would be worse, but by virtue of doing this over and over again, it becomes a little easier. But there is something that never fully goes away, which is the day that I have to talk, to speak, depends on the audience and the stakes, I guess. Like obviously, when you have a microphone, it increases the anxiety. The day it's something will happen, and the 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before, 15 minutes before are the worst thing in the world. And then it's showtime, and then you use that energy to push yourself and project your voice and go for it. And it's you just say what you know, and that's how I manage. I practice a lot. I I know exactly what I'm gonna say. I know which questions might have might come. It's very important to know what you're talking about. So if you're talking
Exactly.
about something, you will know that if you're nervous about something because like a question that may arrive and you don't know, it's because maybe you are lacking preparation or you're not so sure about the thing. You can compensate that by preparing more.
Exactly. Just to have that confidence.
Exactly. And do not rehearse jokes that never goes well. Do not rehearse jokes or like in this moment I'm gonna make a pause and I'm gonna wait for people to stop laughing and then move on to that never goes to plan, okay? I made a joke, by the way, I made a joke in my DroidCon Berlin talk. And people I said it in a very hand wavy way, and I don't think people laughed. But it was fine. I wasn't expecting anyone to laugh. I was just
Fair
like,
enough.
okay, moving on. This didn't
Next.
work. Let's exactly. It's just like no expectation. And then if people find it funny, great. No one expects you to be a comedian from a tech talk. Okay. They just need to learn something.
Yeah.
So the way that you prepare for a talk is a couple of key takeaways that you need people to leave your talk with. What are you teaching with this? What is it? What are you giving to the audience? And then the audience will give you back good feedback. That's how it works.
It's about providing value, right? You need to get
Always,
them
yeah. Oh, yeah.
certain amount of value, and then people are, happy. We've got another
And the,
question. Sorry, there are
no,
quite a
no,
few
no, no, no. Go
questions
ahead. Go
coming
ahead.
over.
Or we're never gonna leave.
One is an interesting observation, and then there is a question from Starduck. No, sorry, before here. Is there a
Yes.
Brazilian pillow behind you, Stefano, over there? Yes,
Yeah.
it is. I always have that because my wife, she's Brazilian, so we have South American vibe in the house. So yeah,
No,
we shared
lovely.
that, which is great. Now the question, always from Starduck. The question for Ale is: how's the main difference from Google DevRel paying attention to engineers, managing your own work, attending conferences for a specific brand, and then to a tech lead B2B life?
Like essentially what changed from role to role.
Exactly, especially
Which
from role to role, and for that kind of role at Google, and a tech lead role to a company which is clearly not a big tech, which doesn't mean that it's
yeah.
bad by any stretch of imagination, but clearly is different scope and different scale.
For sure. Different scale. Oof, this question has like so many corners because these two companies couldn't be more different, right? To begin with, like last thing I know, maybe I these numbers should be checked, right? But Google is like a 200,000 employees company, and HubSpot is around the 7K. So that's the first difference. Like the amount of information and noise, and things that you could be taken a look at, it's like very, very, very different. At Google, I was overwhelmed by the amount of information and amazing things that were happening all the time, right? Like that I felt like I needed to be a part of, or like chats that would never stop, and that can come up as overwhelming sometimes. The amount of emails, like the amount of information, you have to prioritize ruthlessly for everything that is competing for your attention.
Yeah.
A HubSpot I feel like that is more manageable. At Google, you needed a strategist to make it manageable. And you needed to decide consciously what to ignore. That was very hard. That was hard because you knew that there are emails that are never going to get your attention.
Okay, fair.
And the other thing was like, and this is like very high level differences. I can get into the nitty gritty in a second, but these two things, that the amount of noise and the time zones, you would work with people from, in my team, every continent.
Wow.
So you could feel or not the need to reply at all times. I am very bad at that, to be honest, because I always wanted to answer my peers. So I would be like,
Same.
oh, let's see if someone asks a question. No, because
No.
your peer that is in Australia is obviously going to have a question at the wrong time. So yeah, you can definitely manage that to be more, to have discipline, to not do that to yourself.
You should get good at asynchronous comms.
Yeah, for sure. And be very organized okay, you didn't reply to all of this, then the next day you go in order,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
this is what I have to clear my inbox, clear my messages. Okay. Now the role itself, the roles are very different because like, DevRel, what it has, the role itself, is that you create your own work by identifying the priorities from multiple sources. The partner teams that you're working with, the partner apps that you're working with, the community feedback from Slack and LinkedIn and Twitter. I was very active on Twitter when I was at DevRel
Of course.
before Twitter stopped being Twitter.
Became X.
Before the algorithm changed and I am no longer talking to anyone, I'm just talking to the wall. Before, when I had a reach, I was very active on that. So there you start getting feedback from everywhere, and then you build a backlog of a lot of things that can happen, and then you have to create a plan with a strategy. So you end up being your own PM, really,
Yeah.
and managing your own work. Whereas typically in software engineering product teams, there is a PM that has customer calls and identifies where are we going with the product strategy by virtue of like having these customer calls, analyzing the product, identifying the gaps, creating a story, a narrative, defining targets, and like this product strategy nitty gritty things. So I feel like I am no longer as involved into what I have to like creating what I have to do. So that's definitely different. And I wasn't a tech lead before, so now I'm like doing the managing career of other developers, analyzing where the gaps are, finding opportunities, finding the right project. It's fun. It's like a chess game sometimes. And I really care about that. And I care about doing it right. Why? Because at Google I had like an amazing lead, and I would see her putting a lot of effort into that, and it was very inspiring. So I wanted to be a fraction of how great she is. So yeah, that's also consuming a lot of time, trying to be a good
Did you bring,
team.
this is a very interesting point. Unfortunately, we are almost out of time, which is a shame. But
No, no.
did you bring over some or any of the stuff that you were doing at Google, or even better, that your manager, some of the tips and tricks, some of the concept that, because I know that clearly Google has quite a framework that is quite structured and makes sense. So did you bring over to your current company, HubSpot, some of those things? So did you implement some of those things in terms of managing careers of people?
That is a great question. I think in general, like just the strategy of finding the right project, and like the structure of our one-on-ones. Okay, defining the goals, and like what do you want? Like listen more than talking. What do you want to talk about? How do I help you out? And how to prepare. Not exactly, because like again, it wouldn't match. It changes from company to company, but how do I think about promo packets? What does a what does a good promo packet look like? The evidence of what you're saying, how to structure the narrative, and find the PRs and the conversations and the quotes from your teammates, the kudos, the peer bonuses that you receive, all of that. And before in other companies, I would have imagined that I would have thought that they were very hand wavy. Oh, I contributed in this. After Google, I realized how much data driven you need to be to prove a point. So I definitely brought that over to this to my team. I am more articulate in some messages that I say. Like I go to the TLDR very fast, so no message is lost in translation. Okay,
Yeah.
then what do you mean? Then what do we do? Okay, what's the goal of the meeting? That I learned from Google. Why are we here for? What do we do? What do you want? What are the next steps? Okay, cool. Everybody understood. Let's just like very methodical way of
Yeah.
working, like this very methodical way of
Yeah,
working from
action
Google
it,
to
actionable points, and not get lost in chit chats and things that then no one cares about. Just get to the point.
oh ordered, methodological, summarized to the point, concrete. Let's make it the best use of our time. That type of that type of attitude, I guess.
Amazing. Okay,
Does
that
that
was
answer?
great. Yeah. That at least that definitely answer from me. So unfortunately, the time really flew by. Like we are, an hour in, and the format of this podcast is, roughly an hour. So the bad news, unfortunately, we are out of time. There were like a couple of other questions, but unfortunately, once again, we don't have time. The good news is that we are going definitely we should do a part 2 of this, because there is a lot to
Sure.
talk about. So if you are up for it, I will invite you over soon for a part 2, because once again it's very, very informative, interesting, and fun. So
Awesome. Yeah, sure. Anytime. I love chatting about, all things Android. But now that I'm actually also, I like talking about like career progression in tech. I see from some of my teammates that are a little bit demotivated, maybe thinking, oh, but this is like so unattainable. But there is like methods to everything, and it can, it can be tackled. It can be cracked.
you have no
And
idea how passionate am I about exactly this specific
really
topic.
cool.
Yeah,
Let's
you have no idea.
let's
I'm
have a
really,
chat. Yeah.
really very, very passionate about that.
Sweet.
Ale is superstar. Thank for the talk. Yeah, she's definitely. All right. So unfortunately for this episode, we are out of time. So thanks again to Ale. You've been super amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, we'll try to arrange a part 2 very, very
Sure.
soon.
Sure.
Okay.
Awesome.